When we're just getting started on our path to financial independence, long-term financial goals can occasionally seem so large that they feel almost unachievable. I, along with many others in the financially independent, early retiree community, have discovered it useful to divide the objective of achieving financial independence into smaller, more workable levels of financial freedom. Not only does it make it simpler for us to monitor our efforts, which in turn encourages us to keep going, but it also aids in overcoming the initial difficulty of beginning to make progress on this mountain of a task. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what I see as the top 10 levels of financial independence and provide an example of how you can progress from level 1 to level 10 in over the course of your lifetime. Hello everyone, and welcome to Finance Bliss, a channel where you can watch videos to learn about investing, debt management, retirement planning, and other general financial education topics because schools won't teach us that stuff. Be sure to click the bell and subscribe button to be notified whenever a new video is published. If any of these topics sound informative to you, or if you want to understand how to handle your money better and have more financial independence, you can also tell a friend about this video and leave a comment below with suggestions and future topics we should cover. Obviously, these concepts for the different levels of financial independence are neither unique to us nor particularly latest. Numerous articles and blog posts have already covered this subject extensively and for a long time. So, think of this more as an overview of many of the concepts discussed in those articles. If you're interested in learning more about the subject, feel free to read some of the articles in full. In the description, we have some links left for your reference. Let's begin. The 10 levels of financial independence are: Level 0, Financial Dependency; Level 1, Financial Solvency; Level 2, Financial Stability; Level 3, Debt Freedom; Level 4, Coasting; Level 5, Financial Security, also sometimes known as Freedom from Employer; Level 6, Financial Flexibility; Level 7, Financial Independence; Level 8, Financial Freedom; and finally, Level 9, Financial Abundance. Typically, the levels are described in terms similar to the following. Level 0. Financial dependency is when your living costs, including debt payments, are higher than your income. This means that you are dependent on someone or something to help you pay your bills. Or, if you're a kid and don't have any bills, you need someone else to pay to put food on the table, keep the lights on, and have a roof over your head. Typically, this is your parents. As a financially dependent, you obviously lack financial independence. So this level is known as Level 0 and is where we all begin. Level 1, when you can fulfill your financial obligations and other living costs on your own without the aid of others. You are said to be in a financial situation known as financial solvency. Level 2, financial stability is usually defined as when you have built some sort of emergency fund in addition to being financially solvent. Level 3, debt freedom depends on whom you ask. It has a different definition. For some, it means being completely debt-free, including their mortgage. Others may define financial freedom as simply being free of high-interest debts like credit cards, even though they may still have a home loan or other debts like student loans. For others, it is paying off all your debts except the mortgage, but your credit cards, student loans, or car loans are all paid off. Level 4, barista financial independence, freedom from the boss, and agency are other names for coasting financial independence that are also used in blogs and other online publications. Although some people use one of those other names, the concept is the same, and that's what we'll be using in this video because we personally like the term coasting financial independence. When you're in a position where you can leave a job that may be higher paying but also less fulfilling, more stressful, or both, depending on your preferences, you have attained the status of coasting financial independence. At this point, you could take a new position that is less lucrative but more fulfilling, less stressful, or both. This is due to the fact that during the beginning of your career, or even just the most recent years, you were able to save a sizable amount of money that would be able to support you in your later years of retirement once it has grown, even if you don't contribute much more. Therefore, all you need to do is earn enough money to support yourself until you are 60, 65, 70, or whatever age your calculations indicate, at which point the money you already have made with investments will be able to support your life of leisure because it has had time to grow. So in a way, you've put in a lot of effort and extremely frugal in the early years so you can cruise into retirement. If you're interested in knowing more, I've gone into more detail about the different types of financial freedom in a previous episode, which I'll leave linked in the description. Level 5. Financial security is achieved when your income from assets, such as investments, has increased to a level where it can cover your yearly necessities for survival. We now refer to these as survival expenses to distinguish them from living expenses. Simple necessities like food, water, shelter, some mode of transportation, clothing, and possibly insurance are considered survival expenses. These are purely living expenses and do not include things like cable or Netflix subscriptions or other things of the sort. Although, you definitely wouldn't want to retire at this time. This may not be the best place to do so, but it's a crucial level to remember because it does give you, well, you got it right, security. Even if you lost your job today and were at level 5, you could make it until you got a new job. This is primarily the first level that truly provides you with peace of mind, even if the lifestyle you have gone to live is not the most glamorous. Level 6. Financial flexibility is just one level higher from financial security, with the assumption that you have a flexible spending plan that takes market fluctuations into account. It is when you are able to live off of your current cash flow from riches. Therefore, if the markets increase by 20% one year, you can afford to spend quite a bit more. But if they decline by 20% the following year, you can't afford to spend quite as much. If you understand the 4% rule to get an idea of how much money you need to retire, as I've explained in a previous episode, it is approximately half of your full financial independence goal, or roughly 12.5 times your current annual expenses. I've seen it described in a number of ways, so it could differ depending on who you ask. So it's not quite financial independence yet, but it's getting there. Level 7. The 4% rule, which I discussed in a previous video, is typically the foundation for financial independence. When you've saved about 25 times your annual expenses, you can start applying the 4% rule. You can be regarded as financially dependent because, in the vast majority of cases, this amount of money will be sufficient for you to continue living the way you do in retirement. Some articles stop there, but I believe there are a few levels slightly higher than that are worthwhile taking into account, even though most of us may decide to never try to reach them because being at level 7 enables us to do what we've always wanted. So let's discuss the last two additional levels. Level 8. Financial freedom is frequently described as having more cash flow from investments than you need to achieve your financial independence and a few additional life goals. Life goals will, of course, vary from person to person, but it could be something as simple as taking a trip or two to foreign countries or moving to a new town you've always planned to live in but haven't had plenty enough money to do so until now, or whatever the case may be for you. As I said, it's different for everyone. Level 9. Financial abundance is simply put, having an abundance of money means having more cash flow than you will ever need from your invested money. Even though it would require some work, you could spend it if you ever really wanted to. Additionally, nothing from level 8 really undermines it in any way. Therefore, you could raise those objectives even further and still have more funds on hand at the end of the year. This also likely has a slightly different version depending on who you ask, but I'd like to think of it as nearly 3 times your financial freedom multitude because it would permit you to encounter a pretty awful market crash where your investments fall by 50% while still having 1.5 times the money you would need to maintain your standard of living once you reach level 8. That suggests to me that you probably don't need as much as you think you will, but remember, this is just my viewpoint. These are the 10 levels of financial independence. Let's now look at an example of how someone might progress from level 0 to financial independence over the course of a lifetime. At age 23, Kevin and Lydia are a newlywed couple, earning a combined $83,200 per year, assuming no overtime. Each makes $20 per hour. They are able to do this because they are good, hardworking individuals who also achieved high academic standing and exercised caution in choosing the jobs they applied for. They would have obviously started out as financial dependents, just like everyone else, and as they were attending college, they would have accrued student loans that they wouldn't have had the funds to pay off, assuming, of course, that they did not generate enough income while in school to keep up with the rising outstanding loans. Overall, they owe $5,000, $35,000, and $60,000 in credit card debt, 2 car payments, and student loan balances. But now that they have jobs, they're no longer dependent on others for financial support, and their incomes have enabled them to catch up on all of their debt payments on their own. They have $48,000 in annual expenses in addition to their regular monthly debt payments. They are thus attempting to find a way to advance to level 2 of financial stability while still operating at level 1 of financial solvency. To do so, they must devise a method of generating an emergency fund. If they strictly adhere to the 10-level system, they should aim to accumulate 3 to 6 month cash reserve of their survival operating costs. However, this is not the only way to go about it. For example, if you were to adopt Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, you would begin with a $1,000 emergency fund and then proceed to strike your debts. In addition, you might have approached it completely differently according to other financial systems and plans. Either way is fine because the 10-level scheme isn't really meant to be a financial formula. Rather, it's more of a way to provide us with a kind of benchmark so that we can better control our progress in achieving financial independence. For the benefits of this video, however, I'm implying that they do so in accordance with the 10 levels in order so that we can help finance our emergency fund. To determine how much of an emergency fund they require, we may need to know how much money they need to thrive. Your 4 walls of your financial mansion, which are food, shelter, utilities, basic clothing, and some form of transportation, as well as the insurances that are connected to that, assuring there are any. We won't necessarily need to know exactly how much they need to survive on their present level of spending while they have jobs. I'm going to make the assumption that they spend roughly $3,000 per month just to get by. Accordingly, they would need to save $9,000 for a 3-month emergency fund and $80,000 for a 6-month emergency fund. Kevin and Lydia agree that having just a $9,000 emergency fund for 3 months is sufficient because they both believe their jobs are pretty secure and the economy is doing absolutely fine, making it unlikely that they will be laid off due to a company downsize at least in the near future. With an annual income of $80,200, expenses of $48,000, and minimum credit card payments of $100, 2% of the balance, $550.78 for car loans, and $621.83 for student loan, they will have about $1,660.72 per month available to begin saving for emergencies. But recently, John and Jane have both done a lot of research on their finances and have become very excited about the prospect towards becoming financially independent while they're still young. They therefore want to find a way to ramp up the entire process. Luckily, it turns out that there are plenty of those. After weighing in their options, they choose to work as much overtime as they can. For the sake of simplification, I'm going to imply that they decide to work an average of 5 hours per week of extra hours, which will boost their earnings by about $1,300 a month. Meaning, rather than $1,660 a month, they will have $2,960 a month left over. Sell both of their cars and use the cash they receive to purchase some nice used cars to help reduce their debt. They were able to find traders for each of their cars who were willing to pay them $15,000 after placing a few online ads. They therefore take that $30,000 and use $5,000 of it to settle the credit card balance and another $10,000 to purchase a couple of used cars from a person they know who takes good care of their vehicles, whether that be a former colleague or just a mechanic they trust. A balance of $15,000 is applied to their auto loans. Thus, the required $100 minimum payment is no longer necessary as the credit card loan has been settled. Kevin and Lydia decide to start investing $3,060 per month to their emergency fund. They managed to fully fund it in 3 months, with some money left over towards the end of the 3rd month to pay off their car loan. The $15,000 they put in at the first month after leasing the cars, along with making the minimum payments for the first 3 months, helped them reduce the balances of the car loans over the course of those first 3 months to $18,423 in great portion. However, now that they have enough money in their emergency fund, they can pay off their car loan in just 6 months by making the minimum payment of $550 a month plus the additional $3,060 a month. Kevin and Lydia have completed paying off both of their car loans just 9 months into their journey, in addition to having a fully funded emergency fund. The only remaining issue is paying off student loans. Their student loans now have a balance of $53,263 as a result of their minimum payments being made on them for 9 months, and the fact that they had little more than $3,000 at the end of the 9th month after paying off their car loans. The $3,600 that Kevin and Lydia now have left over at the end of the month, as they no longer have to make a $550 car payment, and they were able to pay off their student loans in full in 13 months, follow the same method that they did with the car loans. Thereby, in just 22 months, Kevin and Lydia were able to pay off all of their debt and establish a fully funded emergency fund. Since they now have attained level 3, they have more than $4,200 a month available to begin investing. This moves us to level 4 of coasting financial independence. Let's suppose Kevin and Lydia intend to retire by the time they are 65. By the time they reach 65, whatever they invest now must have enough growth to support their standard of living in retirement. We can get a rough idea of how much Kevin and Lydia need to save in order to reach a state of coasting financial independence if we assume an average rate of return in the economy of about 3% per year on average. Given that they are 24 and soon to be 25 years old, they will have somewhere in the range of 39 or 40 years to let the money grow before they need to withdraw any of it. If their annual expenses were $48,000 when they were 23 years old, then 42 years later, assuming a 3% inflation rate, they would require just a little bit more than $166,000 each year to continue living on. Again, assuming we use the 4% rule to determine how much money they will need to have saved up by the time they are fully retired in order to be financially independent, this means that by the time they are 65, they will need to have at least $4.15 million invested in the market. They can save about $4,233 per month now that they are debt-free, which means they can reach their goal of coasting financial independence in just 2 years. In their particular instance, they would need around $110,000 saved up, give or take. In other words, just 3 years and 10 months into their financial journey, they would theoretically be able to leave their jobs and transition to a more rewarding, less stressful but probably lower paying job. That is amazing. But as I said, achieving financial independence was not their ultimate objective. They continue to work and invest for the time being because they want to be completely financially independent. Level 5 financial security, which is the next level, is attained when your investment cash flow exceeds your annual survival expenses, which in Kevin and Lydia's case would be $3,000 per month or $36,000 per year. They achieve financial security with more than $367,000 in their portfolio in just over 4 years because they are debt-free, earning well at their jobs, and being clearly deliberate with their money. Just 87 months have passed since they started their financial journey, or 7 years and 3 months. At 30 years old, Kevin and Lydia are able to support themselves solely from their investments. Theoretically, they could retire right away. It wouldn't be a glamorous retirement, and it wasn't their intention, but it is a possibility. They are no longer concerned about losing their jobs because even if both of them did, they could survive long enough to find a new job or another source of income. In my opinion, this is the point at which you really start to experience financial peace of mind. For the purposes of this video, I am assuming that financial flexibility is approximately 12.5 times your current annual expenses, which for Kevin and Lydia would be about $600,000 or about $855,000 if you factor in inflation. As I previously mentioned in the video, there are many interpretations of financial flexibility depending on who you ask. This means that if we do not account for inflation, they would attain financial flexibility 9 years and 9 months into their journey, or approximately 11 years and 9 months. Kevin and Lydia keep investing through all the market ups and downs until they achieve financial independence exactly 14 years into their financial journey, or 18 years and 3 months, if inflation is taken into account. You might be curious why I divided the periods in which I accounted for inflation from those in which I did not. Shouldn't we always account for inflation? Technically, yes. But the rationale I divided them up is because, in my observation, both taking this journey for yourself and having to watch others take it affects how you perceive a lot of things, because more often than not, those shifts lead you to appreciating things like freedom of mobility, freedom of location, and freedom of time to spend with the people you love more or less. Which is not to say that everyone who goes through this journey ends up being a minimalist. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I've seen many people that went through this path get closer to being minimalists than they were when they first began, as they learned that even more of the things they used to buy merely don't give sufficient value or happiness to be worth the purchase. They're able to make better use of their time and resources, which leads to a general tendency to spend less. Accordingly, as although inflation is technically continuing to increase your spending, by making every dollar, and therefore less valuable over time, you're also reducing your operating costs because what you value is adapting. It may even out, and in certain cases, you may even see your frequent expenditures decreasing year over year as you keep going on this path. That is why I divided them up. And before I end, I do want to point out that from what I've seen in numerous articles and conferences, many people really like to have much more goals to pursue throughout this journey than what I've outlined today in this video. If that's something that would help you, feel free to break down these levels much farther than I have today. Clearly, this is just the set that I use and what worked for me, but you could take it far more than I did. For instance, debt freedom could be divided into 3 stages. A stage where you are free from all financial difficulties, a stage where you are free from debts other than your mortgage, if you do have one, and a stage where you are totally and utterly debt-free. In a similar manner, you could break down the coasting financial independence level into 2 stages. One where you have saved enough to get by in retirement, and the other where you have saved enough to maintain your current standard of living in retirement, naturally adjusting for inflation. Moreover, the level of financial independence could be divided into 3 stages. Stage 1 would be where you are at a level of financial independence that allows you to survive. Stage 2 would be when you have reached lean fire status. And stage 3 would be when you have fully attained financial independence on your current lifestyle, provided that it is above the lean fire level. How do you guys feel about this 10-level system for monitoring our financial independence? Do any of you track your progress using a similar system? If so, what is it? And where are you guys at right now in terms of level, step, or stage? Comment in the box below. But that's it for now. We'll see you tomorrow. If you like this video, please subscribe and click the bell next to our name to be notified of all of our forthcoming uploads. We generally post on Mondays and Fridays. If you know someone who might be interested in this kind of content, please tell them about it. Together, let's start our own financial movement.